Greetings, welcome back. I'm Lenora Saste from I Taught Before. I think that mostly every single thing that I did as a teacher, especially in third grade, third and second grade, was to encourage my students to read better. I even asked them questions like, why do you come to school? And most kids were programmed to say, to learn and or to get my education. And I was like, to learn what? And then they would say math or reading. And when they say to get my education, I would go looking in the closet to see if that's where it was, the education. Because I realized that they didn't really know why they came to school. The honest kids would say things like, to play with my friends. I ain't mad at them, because that's why they come. To get away from my parents. Kids are honest. To come, I eat, the lunch is good, okay. And I had to tell them that when I asked them, why do you come to school? The answer that I wanted them to give to me was to read better. And everything I did was based on that answer, to read better. Students came into my classroom in third grade and some of them didn't even know their ABCs. I don't know how, and I'm talking about English speaking students. I don't know how they managed to get to the third grade without knowing their ABCs, and I had to go all the way back. I had a Hooked on Phonics program in my classroom, and I would use that to help them. I didn't want anybody walking out of my room not knowing how to read. So reading became the main thing. Let's keep the main thing the main thing. I would ask them, why do you come to school? And after we had that conversation, and I'm like, I'm not mad at you for wanting to play with your friends. I had a great time in school playing with my friends. But you're here in this room to learn to read better. So when I would ask them, why do you come to school? And they would say, to read better. Because yes, you can read, but now we want to read better and better and better. And one of their favorite times of the day, and mine also, was D.E.A.R time, which stood for drop everything and read. We had D.E.A.R time right after lunch. Once they came in from lunch, they were, out, especially if it was a nice day like today, they can go running and playing and sweating and, I want water, do what you got to do. My students were allowed to have a water bottle in their classroom right by their desk, so anytime they're thirsty, they could drink. But their time was exciting. Everybody had a book that they were reading, and it might have been initially 5 minutes until they got used to it. We went all the way up to like 15 minutes, and a lot of times, by the time we got to the 15-minute mark over weeks, they wanted more time, but we had things to do. So every day we had D.E.A.R time where they could drop everything and read. And I mean on their own, right? There was also a time in the day where I'm reading to them. Mostly in the morning, before lunch, according to the schedule, I would have a read aloud that I read to them. It was planned. I knew what questions I'm going to ask them. I knew which vocabulary words I needed them to know before I started reading. And a lot of times they were big picture books, Just because your child is in the 5th or 6th grade, that doesn't mean that they don't want you to read to them anymore. Reading, remember that a child's listening comprehension is always greater than their reading comprehension. So continue to read to them, continue to encourage them to read on their own, and have fun when it comes to books. I'm Lenora Saste. I taught before. I know some things, and I hope my ideas are helping you teach your children. Peace.